Every great story of freedom has a beginning, and it's usually not one big bang, but a series of sparks that eventually light this incredible fire of resistance. Today, we're going right back to the start of one of the most important struggles of the 20th century, the fight against apartheid in South Africa.
Just look at this image. It really captures the heart of that whole struggle, doesn't it? A people completely united, totally defiant, and demanding something so basic, their human dignity. This really sets the tone for the decade of defiance we're about to dive into.
And this is the end goal, right? These are the incredible words from Nelson Mandela at his inauguration in 1994. It marks this triumphant end to a super long, super painful journey. This was the dream. This was what fueled all those decades of struggle.
So, to really understand that amazing victory, we've got to go back, way back. What lit the fuse? What were the very first organized steps on this long road to freedom? Well, that's exactly what we're here to unpack.
Okay, so before we can even get into the resistance, we first have to wrap our heads around the sheer brutality of this system they were up against. A system that was meticulously designed, piece by piece, to separate, control, and just dominate.
The year 1948, that was the turning point. The National Party swept into power. And they didn't do it on some vague promise. No, they had a very clear and, frankly, chilling platform to systematically dig in and enforce white supremacy through a policy they called apartheid.
Now, the word itself literally means apartness in Afrikaans. But let's be real, in practice, it was so much more than just separation. It was a brutal, legal framework designed to strip the black majority of everything: their land, their rights, their citizenship, their very humanity.
And the government moved fast, terrifyingly fast. In 1950 alone, they passed the Population Registration Act, which meant every single South African was officially classified by race. Then the Group Areas Act, which told people where they could and couldn't live. And by the 1950s, you had the Hated Pass laws, which forced non-whites to carry a passbook at all times. Your freedom of movement was suddenly a privilege that the state could take away at any moment. This wasn't just law, it was the architecture of oppression.
But when you're faced with that kind of systematic assault on your life, you don't stay silent. And they didn't. A real organized resistance started to bubble up, and it wasn't built with weapons, but with just immense, unbelievable courage.
So the resistance started to get organized. First, on June 26, 1950, there was a national stay-at-home strike, and it showed everyone the collective power they had. But that was kind of like the warm-up act for something way bigger: the 1952 Defiance Campaign. This was a massive, coordinated act of civil disobedience designed to completely overwhelm the system.
Now, this number you're seeing, 8,326, that's not just a statistic. That's how many volunteers, ordinary men and women, deliberately and peacefully broke those apartheid laws as part of the Defiance Campaign. They actually courted arrest, willingly filling the jails to make a point about how unjust the laws were.
And this is the reality they were fighting against: the daily humiliation of having your life policed at every single turn. So while the protesters were all about nonviolence, the state's response was just constant harassment and control. And it was all embodied by that dreaded passbook check.
And wow, did this campaign have an effect. It completely transformed the African National Congress, the ANC. Just look at these numbers. It went from being a pretty small organization of about 4,000 members to a true mass movement of, get this, over 100,000 people. The people were mobilizing on a scale that nobody had ever seen before. So the movement is bigger, it's more powerful, but they realized that just defying the government wasn't enough. The next really crucial step was to create a vision, not just for what they were against, but for the kind of South Africa they were actually fighting for. And that led to this incredible moment in 1955. Thousands of delegates from all over the country, representing all races, gathered in a place called Kliptown for the Congress of the People. And they had one job: to create a document that would spell out the basic principles of a free and democratic South Africa.
And this is the powerful opening of the document they created, the Freedom Charter. Just let that sink in. In a country that was being systematically torn apart by racial division, this statement was nothing short of revolutionary. It was this radical declaration of unity and shared belonging.
And the charter didn't stop there. It laid out a whole blueprint for a new society. It demanded that the people should govern,
that all national groups should have equal rights, that there should be economic justice, and that everyone should be equal before the law. This document became the guiding light for the liberation movement for decades.
Okay, so the movement has momentum, it's got this powerful new vision, and now we come to a moment of just pure, raw courage. A moment that was propelled forward by the incredible bravery of its women and became a true testament to their strength and resolve. So, the government decided to extend those hated pass laws to women. You can just imagine the outrage. This threatened to tear families apart and expose women to even more police harassment. So in response, women from every single corner of the country organized to make their voices heard, loud and clear.
And the result was absolutely breathtaking. We're talking an estimated 20,000 women of all races marching right to the seat of government power, the Union buildings in Pretoria, to deliver their petitions and their powerful message of defiance.
And you have to know their names. This historic march was led by a group of truly courageous women, including Lillian Goy, Helen Joseph, Rahima Musa, and Sophia Williams de Bryan. And of course, activists like Albertina Cicillo, who would one day be known as the Mother of the Nation, were right there with them. These were the fearless faces of a movement.
And get this, after standing in complete, powerful silence for 30 minutes, they sang this song. It's a phrase that has echoed through generations. Wathind abafazi, wathind imbokodo. It means, you strike the women, you strike a rock. I mean, it became this powerful warning and a symbol of the unshakable strength of women in the struggle. Just gives you chills. So, as this first decade of apartheid came to a close, the battle lines were drawn, super clearly. A mass movement had been born, and it was rooted in nonviolence and a clear vision for the future. But the state was not about to back down. And this really created a stark contrast. On one side, you have a movement totally committed to peaceful protest and civil disobedience. And on the other, a state that responds with nothing but brute force. After the Freedom Charter was adopted, the state arrested 156 of the movement's leaders and charged them all with high treason. It was a clear attempt to cripple the movement by, cutting off its head.
So there's no doubt the seeds of defiance had been sown, and they had taken root in the hearts of millions. But the state's brutal response was only getting worse. And that leaves us with a really critical question. As the oppression just got more and more intense, would nonviolence be enough to win freedom?